lean on us.
We are here for you.
You matter.
You are not alone.
Are you feeling overwhelmed? Not sure where to turn? The National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is there for you 24/7. Call or text 988 or chat at 988sc.org. Whether you're having an emergency or you know someone who needs support now, they can help you take the next step towards finding hope and healing.
There is hope. 988sc.org.
Looking for a fun way to win 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projection for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/play100 and use code play100. That's code play100 at prizepicks.com/play100 for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Steering wheel. Left the steering wheel, yeah. Steering wheel. Hey, steering wheel. Somebody tell him to give it to him. Come on. Whoa.
Do you like my bass? Do you like it?
How the f*** that's possible?
I'm driving like a grandma. Get that, Ralph? Did you hear me? From the radio. The race. Ralph, acknowledge. Now come on, close him down and kill him. We've got a lunatic on the track down that interstate.
I am so annoyed.
Welcome back inside the Parc Fermé for podcast number 753, the Turkish Grand Prix review. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not now.
AKA Negative Camera. You know I've asked you
You
here.
must convince the villagers that I'm harmless.
That's exactly what I need you to do. Tonight, for your kind consideration, we're going to review the Turkish Grand Prix. You know how we do this.
We watch one, then we talk about it. Then we watch one, then we talk about it. Come on, Todd.
That's exactly what we do. But before doing that, I have to introduce my championship-winning co-host tonight, which of course means...
Ripped from out of the wasteland. He's bad, he's beautiful, he's crazy. It's...
Hello, everybody. This is Paul Charsley, the International.
Paul Charsley, Sprint Cup champion, number 23, Heart of Racing.
Thank you very
awesome.
much.
So excited for you and the entire team. You guys won the Sprint Cup Championship in IMSA with the number 23 Heart of Racing team.
Yes.
In the capable hands of Roman and Ross. Yep. And it was nip and tuck. Oof. You know, close race, but you pulled it off. You did a little Jensen Button there in 09, kind of, hung in there, got it done.
In there. Yeah, just did what we had to do. Wanted to make it a little bit easier for ourselves, but we didn't. So yeah, it was like one position down or up for the other guy, and it would have been reversed. So, you go 10 races and all the points, and this year we had qualifying points and all this kind of stuff, and it came down to just 19 points between the two of us. So it's like 350 points for a win, so you can just imagine how actually close it was. But we got it done. We got it done.
Well, hey, look, you beat Pill Miller Racing. It's a hell of an operation.
It is.
They got a great car. It's a good operation. Mm-hmm. You guys went in there your second year, Paul, and beat them, won the championship. Kudos to Ian James, team boss. Fabulous job putting together the right team, all your hard work. Yep. I'll tell you, it's been really cool, and I apologize, guys. We will get to the Turkish Grand Prix, but it's not every time one of our co-hosts wins a championship in racing. So, we're going to take a take a moment. We're going to take a moment and talk about it. So, the cool thing about it, Paul, is that I've known you for many years now, and you're a race car driver, and that's what you do, and your whole family's been in racing, and your entire life has been surrounded by motorsport. So I know you've won, championships, you've won races and all that sort of thing, but working on this side of the pit wall, not behind the steering wheel, being the sporting manager for the team, all the details, the logistics, everything that has to happen to win a championship like that is tough. But the cool thing is that you've shared it with all of us at TPF, and we've got to go along with this journey with you, and we're so excited for you. I can't tell you how happy we are.
Yeah, I can't tell you how happy I am. I mean, it's, as you say, the second year you would, I just think about how it started, when we first started this team and crashed out at Daytona, finished last, I think. And, the COVID thing is, struggled, made mistakes, had incidents. And then, that was year one. And year two, I mean, we've finished every race. We've been in the sharp end every race. We've won some races, the team. And that does not happen just by the drivers driving super fast. It happens with making sure everything's done right, making the crew staying up late. I mean, I got to tell you, the Heart of Racing crew are usually the last out of the paddock every night, during a race weekend. And there's a reason why the cars stay on the track and everything's nut and bolted and everything's working well, and evolution of the car during the weekends with the engineers. I mean, it's just constant, just relentless pursuit for reliability, speed, and execution, and that's what wins championships. And I'm elated that we did it in year two. It's mind-boggling when you think about how good those other teams are and how long those other teams have been around. And there's some great drivers in the series.
Oh, for sure.
And Roman, young kid, and then Ross coming over, only knew one track, they'd been to, and just being able to jump in and learn a track in the limited time we get before we have to go racing. Just everyone just pushed themselves, and just every minute of the weekend, you're just constantly thinking, how do we do it better? How do we make sure we don't make a mistake? What's the other people doing that we can learn from? And that's, the mantra out there. Yeah. And won us a championship. And I can't be more happy and proud of, being a part of that team. I'm just a cog in the wheel, and I'm happy to do it. And as I said, everyone's a unique personality. Everyone brings a lot of skill to the table. And it's amazing how cohesive the team is on a weekend to execute that kind of stuff. So,
it's a testament, because it's really a top down from your owner and his love of motorsport, and his willingness to invest in motorsport. And then you've got Ian James, your dear friend. You've known him forever. And that, Ian James, clearly an incredibly good driver, very passionate motorsport person himself.
Yeah, very
and
smart
then
fella.
Sharing that passion, that you also share that passion that Ian has, but that unified passion from your engineers to your mechanics, everybody that's working in that team to stay late, to engineer the crap out of it, to pick the fly poop out of the pepper, and make sure that car, its weaknesses, its strengths, you've developed strategy around that, you've overcome adversity, and really that resilience of that team to sort of power through some of that adversity that you guys found. And still, I know you and I'm sure Ian would share this as well, but I know you and I've talked offline, just, how impressed you have been with Roman and his driving, and Ross and their ability to put a lap together, their consistency, and you being a professional driver yourself, what you're looking at, and just everything is gelled to come in and win that title. And it's a Herculean effort, and every one of you should be proud of what you've done.
Yeah. And there's not an ego on the team,
Yeah.
because, Ross is, a factory Aston driver, but he's more than happy to hand the stage to Ian on doing track walks, talking about engineering the car, all these kind of things. He's happy to, not think he knows everything, and he's just a sponge as well. So, hopefully we'll come back and do it again next year, and, going to be all the more powerful for it. But it was, it's hard to explain what happens during the weekend and how everyone interacts with each other, and what adversity we've gone up behind the scenes sometimes mechanically, to get the car just on the grid, and, somehow we've always managed to do it, and always got it to the finish of the race, and always had a car eventually by the end of the weekend that's ready to fight it with the other top teams. So very happy. And we got one more race to win. by focusing on the sprint championship, unfortunately, we're a little far behind in the overall, which includes the endurance, some of the endurance races and some of the sprint races. But we still got a shot at it, and the gloves are off. We're not going to worry about points at Petit. We're just going to worry about winning,
Right.
We've been driving to win a championship, and there's a very different ideology, as Lewis Hamilton knows, between trying to win a race and trying to put together a championship. And it is different ideology, and you have to be measured in your decision making when you're out there on the track. And all the drivers were definitely bought into that whole process, which we began first lap out at Daytona. It's like, this is what we're going to try and do, guys, and this is how we need to do it. And every weekend we're reminding each other, this is what we need to do. Think of the big picture, trying to win a championship. If we need to give up a position every now and again to make sure we're there at the finish, that's what we need to do. Yeah.
So it must be your phone dinging. I bet it's dinging like crazy.
It's my mom again.
I figure that's all your friends. Great job. Congratulations coming in on your text messages. So that's great.
Yeah, we get a lot of good feedback from within the paddock too. It's a pretty good group of people in there, and so people are like, wow, impressive stuff. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, congratulations to you,
Thanks.
to Ian, to the whole team. Couldn't be happier. And I always kind of learned my lesson that, now that you're doing that with Heart of Racing, come the race weekend, I try not to bother you because I know it's you're going great guns and you don't need a bunch of texts from me, So, did you see Lewis stay out? No, I won't say anything. You got a race to run, so So I kind of take Paul as I can get him.
Good thing about this out race was on Saturday, and it was perfect timing.
Yeah,
I got on the plane to come home, and the plane I was on had ESPN, and I watched the whole race on my flight home. So it was perfect.
Great. Yeah. That was good timing. Well, let's talk about that race. You want to?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. A couple of key elements I want to talk about. The track in general. It's a tricky track, no doubt about it. McLaren said that the medium speed long corners were really a weakness for them. They just did not play a factor in this race this weekend. Merck looked very quick and dominant all weekend long. And if this is a Merck track, then, which it appeared to be, then certainly taking that engine change penalty here made a lot of sense for Lewis, because taking that 10 grid place, knowing that he'd be on pole, starts 11th, he easily make that up. So It was a good gamble, a good time to take that. Unfortunately, in general over the race, a steady drizzle or misting kept the track damp, which meant that it was an intermediate tire race. But many thought that the rain would stop at some point and a dry line would appear eventually. But so then it's understandable then that the teams and drivers were trying to manage those inters long enough for a dry line to appear and then change to slicks. Now, the challenge was that the cool track temperatures offered up graining, and for most of the race, for the early part of the race anyway, many drivers said that they wanted to push but were being told not to by the teams. And there were other drivers saying, I wish the team would have told me not to push as much early on because I chewed those inters up, trying to push. And in the end, that dry line never came. And some adventurous drivers, Leclerc, Ocon, Lewis, thought that they might be able to make it the whole way on one set. Others boxed early, and in doing so, they went through that graining stage, and then they were able to challenge for position late. But it was a kind of an odd combination, Paul, with that newly cleaned surface, a lot of grip. A lot of the drivers saying even in that misty, damp condition, they were getting as much grip out of that as a dry track on hards, So it was kind of this really odd situation of just mist that kept the track damp. And I don't think I've seen that for years.
No, I mean, the only thing I can equate it to, remember that Monaco where everyone was just trundling around?
Yes.
There was a lot of that going on, right? Because, they're protecting their tires, so no one was maximized. That's why basically, the group were not spreading out very far because no one was really on it. Everyone was managing the tire, as you said, trying to manage the tire as long as they can so that when, the dry does come, they don't add an extra pit stop to what they don't need. And there was no big gain to really leaning on the tire. So Most of them were just kind of managing that tire for the bigger picture for the end of the race, which is obviously where the results are going to come. So it was a little unfortunate, you know, as Verstappen was like, you know, he was kind of bored, right? But he knew he couldn't push because, you know, the negatives outweighed the positives of that. So, you know, everyone was kind of stuck in the same realm, except for those that maybe pushed too hard, and then they ended up being the lesser for it. So yeah, the track just never really dried, and it never dried enough to put slicks on. And so everyone was just stuck in intermediate land, unfortunately. Some people made some great stuff. You know, Sainz, obviously he skied through the track. He just kind of threw all that away and made a difference out there. But the teams all have their supercomputers and know how much degradation is going to be, and they just kind of stick into a lap time, and that's kind of how most of the race seemed to be, right? We were just sitting there. They were just killing the time till the end, killing the time till the weather changed.
Waiting for a dry line.
Yeah, no one wanted to make the mistake, right? Everyone just kind of stuck to the same program. So.
Well, we'll start with Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton down in P5, Valtteri Bottas P1. Valtteri said this is one of his best races ever. And to be fair, you know, I think it was a terrific drive for him. If you consider, though, this may be one of the last chances he'll have to win a race, as Lewis is the clear number one at that team right now. They're not going to pull, you know, they're going to pull a team order if Lewis is behind Valtteri. And so he leaves for Alpha next year. So one of the last rare opportunities probably for him to win a race, and he did it. He did it with much aplomb, and it was a great, you know, certainly he inherited pole, but he took off, gained 3-4 seconds, never really looked back, didn't put a foot wrong. Team made the exact right call on his strategy when to box, put on the enters, went through the greening, and it was a great race from Valtteri. It really was.
Yeah, it was a good measured race. I mean, kind of thing you'd think he'd be pretty good at. Is managing, you know, the speed and managing the tire, etc. He's maybe not the guy you want out there, you know, just attacking the corner. But this wasn't an attacking corner kind of race, right?
Yeah, right.
It really was, you know, delicate hands, be quiet on the tire, and don't make any mistakes. And he didn't make any. And I think the Mercedes had a bit of performance advantage anyway. So it was in his hands, right? It was a measured race. Good thing is he had enough speed to make use of that, and you know he kept his cool and just didn't make a mistake and didn't allow Verstappen even a sniff at getting a go at the lead.
Right. Lewis made his way up from 11th, stalled out in the top 5. But as the race and miss continued, it became a question as to whether a driver could make it the entire race on just one set of tires. Lewis was very firm on the radio when the team called him to box just after Valtteri, and he kept going while the team contemplated that statistical reality of doing so. Lewis then radioed, said, look, I feel good on the enters. You know, I'm sliding around a little bit, but I feel good. And unfortunately, the team then could start to see his lap times increasing along with Charles Leclerc at that point. The teams that did pit on lap 35 to 42 had gone through the graining, and now they were up to like 2 seconds a lap quicker than Charles or Lewis. And Lewis didn't obviously see that. But the team did. And they tried to stay out. They were both out of sequence with those that had run through their graining period. And once the tires made it through, like I said, they were a couple of seconds a lap quicker. Lewis wasn't happy after the team did box him. He came out, he lost 2 places, not happy about that, but no driver would be. Then he started going through his graining session.
Right, at the wrong time, right?
At the wrong time, which put him in the clutches of Pierre Gasly nearly. And that was frustrating because he was running in third. And it's a difficult situation. Very much, you know, I was reminded like Lando and Sochi, right? Lewis gambled. Let's be fair here. He doesn't often get these calls very wrong. You know, he's not one of those drivers that gets these calls wrong. He's got pretty good intuition, but it can happen. And in this case, it did. He admitted. He said, you know, I was taking the risk. I was thinking of the long game, thinking I could go the distance. I'm a risk taker. I took the risk, and it didn't pay off. Before I get into my soapbox, I'll let you comment on Lewis's race. I will say that Pirelli at that time were also warning teams not to try to make it to the end.
And I think that's the key.
Mm-hmm.
You know, no matter what Lewis thought. I mean, obviously we've seen some disasters. We saw Max at the end of Baku, you know, where the tire was not going to make it, and it's all good till it disintegrates. And I think the better part for the team was to call it and bring him in. It was damage limitation, right?
Right.
I know they let Lewis kind of gave him some rope there, okay, because they were calling him in earlier, and he was the one that was saying, no, I think I can, go. Why are you calling me in? But in the end, I think, you know,
lean on us.
We are here for you.
You matter.
You are not alone.
Are you feeling overwhelmed? Not sure where to turn? The National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is there for you 24/7. Call or text 988 or chat at 988sc.org. Whether you're having an emergency or you know someone who needs support now, they can help you take the next step towards finding hope and healing.
There is hope. 988sc.org.
Looking for a fun way to win 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projection for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/play100 and use code PLAY100. That's code PLAY100 at prizepicks.com/play100 for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
All the calculations, looking at other teams' tires, Pirelli giving them feedback, I think it was a bit too big a risk. Because what would have happened in the last lap, and Lewis gets a flat tire and he gets 0 points, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, 5th is better than a DNF.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And when we're talking about winning championships, you know, you can't win every race, but you got to be smart about it and you know, fold them when you need to fold them, as long as you're still getting a result out of it. As I said, they let him play a little bit, but I think ultimately they had a lot of data there to say it was a bit too marginal. To try and get all the way to the end of the race, especially if he gets in a position where he's fighting somebody for a position, right? It's one thing if he's 20 seconds in the lead and he's just stroking it, but you know, if he actually has to fight someone, take that little bit extra bit of the tire out and you're done for. So I think he did a good job in getting the vehicle where it was. You know, if they'd pitted earlier, maybe he could have made up a position or 2 perhaps. But in the end, he came away with some decent points, didn't lose too much to Max. I'm sure he wanted to emulate Max and just be right on his rear bumper at the finish.
Sure.
This race wasn't that race, you know. But he's a smart driver. I mean, even though you saw Yuki, you know, he was stuck behind Yuki for 3 or 4 laps or something. It's like, what's going on with Lewis? It's not just that he couldn't pass him. It was like, where is he passing? What's he going to do to the tire to get the pass made? You know,
and what's Yuki going to do as a rookie? Right.
And so, you know, you can use a lot of tire up just making one move on Yuki Tsunoda, right? So I think Lewis was also thinking about the long game and longevity of tires, making sure when he did it, it was not to the detriment of any big tire destruction, right?
Yeah.
So I think it was a good race by Lewis. I think, as I said, it was a weird race in general, but I think, you know, he nearly close to maximized what was possible that day.
Yeah. I'm going to take a little poke at Mercedes, Paul.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was strange that we all watched it unfold in real time. We heard Lewis say, you know, why? You know, no, I think we can stay out. And he stayed out. And the team kind of thought, okay, well, let's think about it. And went a few laps, and they were trying to run the permutations. And Lewis felt comfortable in the car, and he wanted to go for it. That's what we all heard on the race radio. Fair enough. Right. You know, you took the gamble. That's what Lando did a couple of weeks ago in Sochi. Lewis took the gamble, thought maybe he could pull it off, and didn't work. That's okay. That happens. There's nothing untoward. And Lewis, he's a risk taker. He's a champion. He knows what he's doing, and it didn't work, But Mercedes, Toto Wolff was interviewed right after the race, and he said the right call would have been to box him along with Valtteri when everybody else did, and then let him fight and see if he couldn't call back 2 places to the podium, or at least 1 and 4th, right?
Right.
And I would agree with that. I think that was probably the right call, given all the data that the team had and what Pirelli were saying. If you saw Esteban Ocon's front right tire into the race, you could tell that was the right call.
Yeah.
But Mercedes then comes out in the press and starts apologizing to Lewis and fans for leaving Lewis out too long and getting the call wrong, et cetera, et cetera. That's not what happened. And as Lewis said, they win and lose as a team. He knew he had it wrong. And I would recommend the team leaving it there instead of trying to take the blame onto your shoulders and not Lewis. Because when you do that, you create a false narrative to reality, and it reflects very poorly on Lewis.
Right.
You're making it sound like everything that Lewis does, you're running around blowing up air mattresses for this guy. He's a big boy. He's a champion. He so much for it looked ridiculous when they were coming out and taking it the albatross around their neck. Right. And Lewis actually then today had to come out and put out a statement and said, no, this concept that I was furious at the team and for, screwing up my race, that's not it at all. He said it was my call and I got it wrong. And that's okay. Stop trying to run blocker and blow up a bubble around Lewis's world. He's a grown man. He's a 7-time champion. He made the call. He got it wrong, just like Lando did 2 weeks ago. You didn't see the team run out and say, oh, no, it's totally our fault. We didn't tell Lando enough. They weren't running blocker for Lando. They just live and learn. You move on. So why are you doing this to Lewis? Because it reflects poorly on him. That's my fault.
Yeah, say just shut up and move on, right?
Just shut up and move on. Yeah. Hey, we got it wrong. And
you don't have to say it was Lewis's fault.
No.
But you don't have to say it was our fault either. It's just
right. It was a team effort. We won and lose as a team.
He called for it. We decided, sure.
We tried to give it a shot.
Give it a shot.
It just didn't work out.
Wasn't much to lose, right?
Yeah. Just didn't work out. By coming out and saying, oh, we apologize to poor Lewis. We put him on the wrong thing. Well, that's not what we heard at all.
Right. Right.
So don't create a false narrative that Lewis has to try to, live through. I mean, I don't know. It's treating him like a child, and I hate that. That's not fair to Lewis.
Well, it's just the world we live in. Everyone's scared.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's crazy. He's a grown man. Come on.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that he came out and said, no, that's not it at all, man. I wasn't happy. Yes, I'm not going to be kind and polite on the radio. We're passionate. It's the heat of battle. Yeah, we get terse on the radio, but it was my call and I got it wrong. Fair enough. I respect that, Lewis. I respect the hell out of that. I respect that Lando felt like he'd try to do it. I didn't think he could, and he couldn't, but and neither did the team. But hey, I like it. Right?
Yeah.
Red Bull Max Verstappen P2, Sergio Perez. Whoa.
You like my face? You like it?
Yeah, we do, Sergio.
Yes.
We do, buddy.
Chutzpah.
Yes. Well, the simple fact is Red Bull were on the back foot in Turkey, so much so Christian Horner was saying, I don't know where this long straight speed that Mercedes has came from. It just magically appeared,
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's creating a little war of words between him and Toto. But anyway, they came into Turkey on the back foot, did not have the pace advantage. Mercedes clearly had that. So to come out of the race with a second and third is a very good result for them, given their pace deficit. Max had a clean start, slotted into second, chasing Bottas all day, never really being threatened from behind. There again, he needed the win. To really maximize points. And he just didn't have the car for the win. So without a win, it's the next best thing. And he still takes the lead in the championship by 6 points.
Yeah, it's interesting. I said that the different strategy for winning a championship versus winning a race, because Max knows this is maybe, we don't know where the future holds, but this is obviously a key year for him he really does have a shot at it. So he's maximizing. He's not going to push the envelope when it doesn't need to be pushed, or when it's obvious that by pushing the envelope, you're actually going to go backwards rather than forwards. So as he said, he had a kind of a lonely race where he never really took a lot out of himself to get it done, but that's what happens sometimes. You drive to the tire you got and the conditions you're in, and pit stop deltas and graining of tires, all these kind of equations are all put into place where it says, hey, we're better off running a second under our regular pace, and in the end it's going to have us further up the road than thrashing it out. So that's what they're going to do. That's what they did. Perez was in the walls a bit more, so he probably had a more fun race than Max did. But Max came away with a back in the lead of the championship, and that's job one, right? Come out of every race in the lead of the championship, and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Perez had a good start, inherited a spot when Gasly and Alonso clashed, and then did a great job of making life hard for Lewis for about 5 corners, holding the charging Mercedes off. And it was a perfect example of what the team hired him to do.
Right.
That's what they hired him to do. And in doing that, Paul, it pushed Lewis just far enough off the back to take him out of Max's pit window. Mm-hmm. And that was really important. To get him out of Max's pit window. Lewis was never a factor for Max, right?
Right.
And it was a great battle. It also helped that the team got Sergio's strategy correct, despite some, and I know the guys on Sky were saying, I'm not quite sure why they boxed Sergio when they did, because, he should have stayed out and that kind of thing. But in hindsight, being 2020, the team, Red Bull, had a great strategy call the whole day. And they made that good strategy call. Very nice drives for both drivers. The team limited the damage on track, and it's a track that's not real friendly to their cars. So I think they got out pretty good this weekend.
They did. I think I don't know about in the dry, would it be better for them or not, really? I'm not sure it would have changed their race too much, but yeah, sometimes the other car's going to have an advantage, but as you said, the crucial thing is here, Perez was far enough up the road to cause problems for Lewis and his Mercedes, and he did exactly what he needed to do and hold him off at the right time in the right place. He was aggressive but not overly aggressive, and being the wise Perez that he is and skillful that he is, he executed it, and that's what Red Bull's been missing for the past 3 years, and that is what they need to try and win a Constructors' Championship as well as a Drivers' Championship for Max.
Right. They haven't had that since Mark Webber.
Right.
Yep. And it's good to see Sergio. And Lewis has got super aggressive, ran him into the pit lane. Pit entry.
It was a good tussle, and you just cross your fingers. Oh, please don't make that be a penalty. Oh, I know. It was good, hard racing, and I loved it. That's what we want to see more of. So I thought it was very feisty. Perez, Lewis has way more to lose in that fight than to win. So, and Perez knows that, and he used that to keep him behind him. So it was fun.
I was thinking, don't make this a penalty on Lewis for running him, and everybody, I saw some people tweeting, if that was Max, they would have penalized Max. And just don't penalize anybody for that. Lewis is driving hard, running Perez wide. Perez goes around the bollard, comes right back and takes it to him. And I thought it was just good, hard racing. I enjoyed it.
It absolutely was.
Yeah. Ferrari, Charles Leclerc in P4, Carlos Sainz in P8. Carlos had a great race, scything his way back toward the front, having taken an engine change grid penalty. So as he started in the back, Carlos said it was one of his best races. And that actually could be true, because I think he was overtaking all over the track without DRS, Paul. Yeah. And he felt he could have finished better, but a slow stop kept him in 8th, unfortunately. But I think the F1 fans voted him driver of the day. But a great result for Carlos, having come from the back, and a little surprising on just Ferrari's overall pace at this track. I thought really, somebody hit the on switch.
Yeah, what's interesting to me is when we're talking about preserving the tire and running to a lap time because you got the equations aren't working out. It seemed like he was the only guy living in a different matrix. I don't know. Yeah. He was aggressive. he was getting passes done, and he didn't just kind of throw his tires away after 10 laps. I mean, a really smart, aggressive, skillful drive by Sainz. I mean, unfortunately, that slow pit stop, elsewhere would he have been otherwise? You know,
right?
He would have been even further up. So I can't remember how many. He lost like 5 seconds in that pit stop, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about these tracks and without DRS being able to help you, and you have to really work for every pass you make. He worked for a lot of passes. Fun to ride around with. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to have fun riding around with Carlos for this race in the replay, because he made some awesome moves, some lunges. Some people may have had to make some room for him, a little wheel banging here and there, and you know, what's not to be entertained by that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Charles Leclerc had an interesting weekend too, and he kept having these sort of last lap efforts. Remember in qualifying, it was like the very last lap, boom, there's, he's Q2 and then he's Q3 and then he's, qualifying well. And, in Ferrari, they had Laurent Mekies on as the guest team boss during the Sky interviews. Right. Yeah. And I thought he was great, by the way. I thought he was insightful and
could actually understand him.
Yeah, but he was a little more revealing than what you get out of Bonotto or even former Ferrari bosses, right? They just wouldn't say anything. Yeah. But I thought Laurent was very vocal, very descriptive. And
a bit more of like the new ilk of managers, right?
Yeah, like Marcin and Andre Seidel and those guys.
Christian, all those guys.
Yeah, Christian Horner and that, yeah. And so, anyway, they had him on, and they kind of played down their pace, but man, when it mattered, Charles Leclerc delivered. He during the race, he's running at the sharp end of the grid all day and had that newfound pace that Ferrari played down. Charles took the lead when Valtteri and Max boxed and tried to make it to the end on one set, but like Lewis, he had to box late after locking up twice and running wide, and this dropped him down to fourth, but he managed to stay ahead of Lewis and finish fourth. He asked the team, that was kind of interesting, that radio call, when he was leading, and he said, okay, if I go with this, if right now how I'm going, where will I end up? And they said, well, if you keep Valtteri behind you, you'll win. And he's like, not what I'm asking. I'm asking if I set 135s and they're coming through, will I finish third or fourth? Because otherwise I'll box, right? He was trying to figure that out. I don't know how the team missed that, but hopefully they got that together on a radio call that we didn't hear. But I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, no, it's good to see the Ferrari boys having fun, getting a bit more confidence. And just, as I say, I think it was a little masked by, as I said, the staying within the lap time, protecting the tires kind of business of how competitive it was versus a Mercedes or a Red Bull. But in the ballpark, right? Yeah. And got, obviously in the ballpark a lot more than the McLarens were. And that's super important in that battle, 2 races ago, it was like Ferrari don't even have a sniff at it, but now it seems things are kind of ebbing and flowing back a little bit, and Charles and Carlos are getting a little more excited about the end of the season, I think. Yeah,
for sure. AlphaTauri, Pierre Gasly in P6, Yuki Tsunoda P14. Pierre got a sandwich between Perez and Alonso, and he clouded the Spaniard, spinning Alonso off track, which garnered a 5-second penalty. Pierre kept his head down, though, recovered, served his 5-second penalty, and still was challenging Lewis for the 5th at the end of the race, and a really inspired drive. I thought Pierre had a good drive and good recovery. You could get your head rattled with that penalty, and it didn't. I'm sure he was pissed off, but he managed to come back out and finish a strong 6th. Do you see that penalty is a little unnecessary?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 2 words, bull.
Yeah, exactly.
That penalty, I didn't like it at all, and, obviously Perez on the inside, and then Alonso trying to make the move on the outside. It's like in the rain, in the spray, first corner, first lap. Come on. Yeah. Come on. Yeah. That was ridiculous. And then they said he got 2 points on his license or something. Yeah. I did not understand that at all.
No, I didn't either.
I don't know what to say about it. I don't know how that even became a penalty, quite honestly. Yeah. So, but what are you going to do?
Yeah.
But a great drive by him, as he's been doing most of the year when the car's been under him. So great qualifying effort and great execution, even with the 5-second penalty, to put himself where he was and the finish line. Brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yuki had an interesting role early on, Paul, by holding off Lewis Hamilton. He did so by late braking, but he was also, I noticed, following Lance Stroll and would tuck into that slipstream of Lance Stroll, use that to his advantage, then late brake. I mean, it was a pretty measured drive, right?
It was feisty, yeah.
Yeah, it was feisty.
I mean, not often you get.
Looking for a fun way to win 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projection for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/play100 and use code play100. That's code play100 at prizepicks.com/play100 for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projection for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/get100 and use code GET100. That's code GET100 at prizepicks.com/get100 for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
To fight for a position with Lewis Hamilton, certainly not for him anyway. So why the hell not?
Right. And as a rookie, you have to watch yourself. And I think Lewis, as you mentioned earlier, I think he sort of backed off a bit, waited for the mistake or the easier pass or the right passing opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's a measured champions drive because you're dealing with a rookie here. And Lewis knows that.
And with a history of this.
With a history of Yuki's, right? So Lewis knows that. Not a long one,
but it is a spectacular, yeah.
Right. And everybody's like, well, Lewis, he was getting held up. Yeah, it cost him, 10, 12 seconds, and it was a bummer. But again, Lewis thinking long game here. He's got to finish this race, got to be in the points. You can't dive down the inside of Yuki. Yuki'd take them both out, right?
Yeah.
So he's got to be careful there, and he got it done.
It was a great pass in the end to get it done. Yeah.
It was at turn 3, right? Yeah, it was great.
I can't remember which turn, but it was a lovely pass, yeah.
Yeah. Yuki was in the points too, but he spun late on the damp part of the track, and that basically spun him out of the points. He said that he used too much tires early on, and it was a real learning curve for him. And I would think that this race in general for the newer drivers, I doubt any of them have faced many situations like that where it's a never drying track,
right?
But it's not a full wet race, right?
Yeah.
So it's a weird,
very
deal.
unusual circumstance for sure.
So it was definitely, as you said, for better or worse, it was all about tire management. I'm sure Yuki learned a lot there.
Mm-hmm. We hope so.
I hope so. Yes. Let's see. McLaren, Lando Norris P7, Dan Ricciardo P13. Lando nabbed a spot when Alonso spun, but it was a quiet race from him from then on. And he said that it was difficult to keep his tires in the heat window. And it was really just about damage limitation at that point for Lando. So it was a quiet race. Didn't really achieve much. Lewis got around him without any difficulty. And he said that was about it. It was just limiting damage.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that must be their Achilles heel, right? And this track's got several of them, right?
Medium speed, long corners.
We know they're good in fast corners, and we know they're good on straights, but maybe that's they want to repeat, go to Turkey every weekend, that's for sure.
Right.
But even so, coming seventh, damage limitation, if you want to call it, gets a bit overused nowadays, but not too shabby for him to execute. It could have been as bad as Ricciardo's race, which ended up being a bit of a mess.
Yeah. Dan took an engine change after missing out in Q1. That was bad. So that put him at the back. Dan struggled early on. Now, he boxed early for a new set of inners, and he couldn't make a whole lot out of them. He said there was about 4 laps that they were good, and that was it. And the rest of the race was unpredictable and very difficult to get his tires to work. And the team lost, some points to Ferrari in this race. It was interesting, though. I think Dan, Paul, was the bellwether for the other teams because he boxed early. They asked him, do you think he'd be quicker on a fresh set of inners? He said, yeah, for sure. So they boxed him, put on those fresh inners. Notice for at least 2 or 3 laps, he was slower than everyone else on worn tires. But then, boom, graining was done and he was faster. And then, boom, everybody started boxing.
And he made up a lot of spots. It looked like a great move because he leapfrogged like 8 people, but in the end it just didn't work out and he slipped back again. So it was unfortunate. The interesting thing here is I don't think the drivers were able to evaluate the tires as naturally as they would most other races, right? Because we even see it from Vettel, we saw it from Ricciardo saying he could go much faster on the new Inters, couldn't do it. Lewis saying I can go to the end with it, probably couldn't do it. It was really a crunching the numbers, understanding the dynamics of the tire and the surface, etc., rather than the driver's natural instinct to really judge it here.
Yeah, it's very difficult because you rely, a team relies a lot on the driver and their judgment and their instinct and the feel in the car, but they're also looking at all the data and the weather and everything else. And it was just a culmination of an odd weather pattern. And I think it was difficult for the drivers to know, should I push? Should I not push? Teams are saying not push. Could we go the whole distance? No, yes. It was, very difficult combination of factors that all sort of amalgamated in aggregate to make it a challenging race. And some drivers got it right and some didn't.
Yes, it's a damn shame though, isn't it? Because I really like this Turkey track.
I do too. Yeah.
But we passed 2 times since we've come back. It's not been what we loved about it was able to shine. So.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen a dry race because they cleaned that track. They power washed all the oil. It gassed out over the last year. It would and the grip level was high. I think it would have been a real barn burner in dry.
I think so. Yeah.
Let's see, Aston Martin, Lance Stroll P9, Sebastian Vettel P18. Seb got mugged by Sainz early on and then tried to change to slicks way too early and admitted that was a bad call, you think? And he slid around for a lap and then changed back to inters. Now, I'm going to try to be fair here to Seb. You could ask, why did he do that? But in his defense, somewhat, he said that there wasn't anything left on his tires. And he reckoned they were already bald, so slicks might actually work, although I'm not sure why he went on mediums and not softs.
Yeah, that was more curious than anything.
Yeah.
I mean, the track didn't look ready for it anyway. I know they're saying that the Inters are, slicks, but they're also, Inters have a different structure and compound than even the soft slick, right? It's different.
Right.
So that's why it was able to cope with that. And because the nature of the track, they weren't really delving in, just ripping that rubber off the tire. So even though the tire is a slick, perhaps close to it, it's not the same at all between an intermediate construction to a monsoon tire or to a slick. So that's a pretty layman's eyesight on it, really, I think. Right. And why they went to mediums, I don't know why you'd even think about doing that.
No, I would have thought he would have.
An option of softs, that would be the only tire that could possibly work, even though the track didn't look like that was what was the right move there. It may have been like maybe 6 laps from the end, but no one was going to do that at that time after they saw Seb, in his. And the problem is, maybe if no one else is on the track, it may have been, but to pass somebody, you have to go off that line, and there was no place in a slick tire, no matter how hot it was, where you could have gone offline to pass somebody and actually made it through the next corner. So
right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you could argue that 5, 6, 8 laps to the end, there was a dry line, maybe around 8, 9, 10, 11, or maybe it was 12. You could kind of see a little bit of a dry line, and you could think, well, maybe that would hang and hold on, and it might. But as you said, as soon as you went off the line, it's going to be damp out there.
The track wasn't raceable. As I said, a single lap, one car, maybe.
Right.
I think it probably would have been a bit quicker, but it wasn't raceable for anyone to do that.
And even those inters were bald on the contact patch, but when you load that front end, it's going to roll over to the edge of the tire. There was still some tread on the outer
still a
edges.
little bit of stuff. Yeah, and I
there's
said
still
the tire,
tread.
like your snow tires, right?
Yeah.
If people put on a snow tire, it's not just they've got this different pattern on grill, dug into the tire. It's really how the tire works to try and dig into a low grip surface. Very different.
And the compound.
Yep.
Lance, let's see. Lance typically does pretty well in these kinds of conditions. He remained resolute, held his pace, managed his tires to score points. Lance said he felt that he got the maximum out of the car, and his slowish stop didn't really cause that much harm to him. He pretty much finished basically where he thought he would. But I think he did do a pretty good job of managing those tires, keeping himself in those points, even though they had a clear pace deficit to everyone else. But I think, I'm not making this into a mountain out of a molehill. It wasn't that astounding of a drive, but to finish it, a couple points, managing his tires in some pretty changeable conditions, I thought it was all right.
Yep, I think it was all right. Yeah, obviously better than the Vettel choices. So there you go.
For sure. Alpine, Fernando Alonso, P16, Esteban Ocon, P10. Alonso was tagged by Pierre on the first lap, spinning him and dropping down around the Haas duo. So he spun out of the top 5 or 6 and all the way back down into a brace of Haas F1 cars. Alonso then clouded Mick Schumacher in a clumsy move that garnered him his own 5-second penalty for the effort. He apologized to Mick, gave him a big hug after the race, and I'm sorry, that was my bad. But just kind of a clunky race for Alonso.
Did Mick put his fingers in Alonso's nose and just...
Mick got out of it, ripped his helmet off, started walking down to the garage of Alonso like his dad
you trying to kill me?
You trying to effing kill me? Like DC, in Spa 98. That would have been awesome.
That would have been awesome. I don't think Mick's that kind of guy.
No, I think Mick was fine with it. He understood. And then Esteban went the whole way on one set of tires. They looked very dodgy at the end of the race. The cord was showing through. No surprise.
Yeah, I think he lost 4 seconds on that last lap. I mean, he nearly didn't get the points.
Can you imagine the vibration on that front right? Oh, that would have been brutal.
I bet he was just I don't want to turn the steering wheel.
I know. As Marcens said, it was a meager effort for the team, but an aggressive no-stop strategy gave him points, and it did give him a point.
Yeah. I think it was a little opportunity lost there with Alonso. Obviously, I think I think he was in a good position where he could have done some good stuff for that team. But being mixed up in those 2 incidents at the beginning just pretty much killed the whole race. But I was looking forward to where he qualified and where he was starting. I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be good. But
could you imagine him
nothing
running in 6 up there, managing tires to see what he could have pulled off in those unrelenting conditions? I think it would have been good. He'd have been like, so anyway. That's it. Alfa Romeo, Kimi Räikkönen, P12, Giovinazzi, Antonio Giovinazzi, P11. The team found pace in Turkey, so that's good. They were close to scoring points as both drivers gained 4 places. Kimi was quicker than Giovinazzi early on, and that had a lot of heated radio debates going back and forth, and Kimi was all ticked off and mad, and he was...
No, is my drinking, is it emptying the bottle or not? How the fuck that's possible?
So anyway, he was not happy. He was looking to be let through. The team didn't issue team orders.
Yeah, I didn't understand that.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. They were making a play for the points, and they ran out of laps. And I kind of figured if Kimi was quicker, they should have let him through because I think P10 could have been on offer.
Yeah, when you're fighting that close to the points, I don't care who's scoring the points. Whoever's faster, you let them go. Let them go. So I mean, they don't have a car capable of scoring points every weekend. So when you got the chance, do not hold your teammate back. We've seen this happen in the past when teams have lost points because they allow their drivers to battle it out. So disappointed in that ideology there by Alfa Romeo. I'm not sure where that's coming from.
Yeah. Let's see. Williams. George Russell, P15, Nicholas Latifi, and P17. George said the first 10 laps actually felt okay, but as the tires wore down, the pace really dropped off. And then with all cars running, there was no attrition, so they couldn't really pick up any sympathy positions. And that was it. They kind of left in the back. Nick said he tossed his race away with a spin early on. But he said, and I didn't realize it, he said it was his first full wet race for the entire race. So it was a really good experience for him.
Yeah. Well, fair enough.
I'll take his word for it. And then we're down to Haas. Schumacher, I don't even know. I have a DNF. That's not what happened.
I think he was ahead of Mazepin.
Yeah, he was ahead of Mazepin.
Yeah.
Mick had a great qualifying. Made it Q2. Couldn't capitalize, having got punted by Alonso early on. Qualified really well, and I was hoping to see him kind of up in the midfield and see how he would do. I knew he would drift backwards in the Haas, but it would have been nice to see him sort of mix it up a little bit in the midfield.
Have some fun out there rather than just beating your teammate.
Yeah. He did manage to beat his teammate. Nikita's big moment was balking Lewis despite blue flags.
Highlights.
Yes.
Maybe that's what he's looking for. He's trying to figure some way of
That's
making
TV
the papers. Yeah. Any PR is good PR,
That's right.
So,
that's right.
I don't know.
All right.
Bonehead move, but
that's a bonehead move.
Help me, Tom Cruise!
All right. Let's do move of the race.
We'll do it live.
All right, Paul. Move of the race. Who do you have?
I'm giving it to Perez. I think was
You like my face? You like it?
We do.
Yeah. I loved the move to the left, the move to the right, the move to the left, the move to the right. It was good. He didn't just flop over and let Lewis by or whatever. And it became a very important car-to-car battle, quite honestly. And he won out. And I think that was great for him and great for the team overall.
Yeah. Very important battle. Moved Lewis out of Max's pit window. Very important to the race strategy, and he pulled it off. I had Perez holding off Lewis as well. I could argue that around lap 35-ish, all the teams that boxed, that was the right call.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the cars that ran up front. Let's see. Next award is Donkey of the Race.
Get down. Not good enough, Tommy. Not good enough.
All right, who'd you give it to?
I'm giving it to the stinker of a tire choice, to Vettel for his slick tire choice.
Yes, that was
time to do that now.
That's who I gave it to.
That was a bizarre choice by a guy that's won a lot of races and a lot of championships.
I agree.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of desperation maybe to just think outside the box, but there's limits to that.
You get the impression we're watching the kinder, gentler Sebastian Vettel now, the elder statesman, the more contemplative, introspective, more virtuous Seb.
You mean he just doesn't give a damn anymore?
Yeah, he just kind of, it's a career and he's doing his thing. And does he want to be a champion anymore? I don't know.
I think he's pretty much resigned himself not to have that opportunity.
Yeah, right.
So
very much like Bottas.
Ouch.
Did I say that out loud? All right. Next award is Drive of the Race. God.
Get down. Get down.
Yes. Well, speaking of, I have Valtteri Bottas as my driver of the race.
Ooh, really?
I know, shocker.
You just kicked him in the teeth and then you brought him back up and brushed his hair.
I did. I thought it was a great race by Valtteri. Yeah. Took it from pole, managed his tires, did a fabulous drive. I agree with him. It was one of his better races. And I thought he did a great job. And I'm glad to see him get a win this year before he bows out of Mercedes. Very happy for him.
Yeah. I mean, it is a good thing for him to get that win. I think that's a little, he hasn't won a race this year.
Yeah,
he's been kind of making mistakes, hasn't been that great. And he knows when he goes to Alpha, the chances are going to be a lot more or less about winning a race. So the opportunity was there. He took the opportunity, didn't mess it up. That's a good point. But you're wrong, because Carlos Sainz was driver of the race.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you're, like a lemming, Paul. You followed the masses who
always.
voted.
I just want people to love me. That's all.
Yeah. You're like, yes, I'm going to do what they're doing. Yes, I'm going to do what they're doing.
Do you like me now? Do you like me now?
You like me?
Yeah.
Can I play? Will you like me? Be my friend. Yeah, no, it was a great race. Absolutely. He was the only guy really pushing out there. I mean,
I think it was a standout amongst, the front of the link. So,
I totally agree. I think the fans and you were correct, but I'm throwing Botus a bone.
Okay.
Because I like, contrary to what people may accuse me of, I like Valtteri a lot. And I think he's a damn good driver. And it's never easy being asked to be the Barrichello. It's just never easy.
Nope.
All right. Let's do some mailbag.
You've got mail.
All right. Fabio asks questions about tires. Gripping. I know. Yes, Fabio. It is gripping. He says, why aren't F1 cars allowed to have mixed compounds on their cars? I get why on your average road car, as we use them for 30,000 kilometers or so. I don't know what that is in old money, folks. Sorry. What is that, 1 million miles?
Something like that.
I know MotoGP use different compounds. Just wondering why on an F1 car you can't have softs in the front, mediums in the back, that kind of thing. Cheers, Fabio. I'm going to take a stab, Paul, and you correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Because ultimately, the car is seeking a complete harmonized balance.
Correct.
You've got to have a balanced car. And if the front is gripping because it's got grippier compounds, it may throw the balance off. You get all of a sudden oversteer pretty dramatically, or understeer if you've got a harder compound than the rear. And the whole idea behind an F1 car is keeping complete harmonious balance so the back and the front do the things you want it to do when you want to do it.
Right. But and I guess the question would be, why would you want to have softs on the fronts and different tire on the rear? Why would you want to do that? And the only answer to that would be to balance the car out because of different grip levels that the front and rear axles are pertaining to. But as you say, the package of a Formula One car is complete from nose to tail, right? And many engineers have spoken about that, and the how different a soft is to a medium to a high is way too big a gap to be able to use that as a tuning tool for the car's balance, right? If the guys say, oh, it's a bit on the nose, okay, we're not going to go stick some hards on the front to balance that out. We're going to figure out a lot more sophisticated manner because, it's just too big a difference. You do, and want
you wouldn't do that on your number 23 Aston Martin.
No, I mean, no, we wouldn't. We're not allowed to, but
but if you could, that's not what you would do.
No, the adjustments are too fine for that. That'd be way too big a jump,
Right, because you're talking about
just take the rear wing off,
Right, you're talking about some deltas between certain compounds at certain tracks can be, half a second.
Right, and then to manage, think how difficult it is for the guys to manage their tire temps and tire pressures now. Yeah. With the tires being the same tire. Imagine how difficult it would be to manage that if they're actually a different tire on the front and the back. Right.
You could be burning the fronts off and the rears are just now getting in the window.
It would just be really, really difficult. You would never come to that point where that would be an advantage. It was always, if they did it to, spark up the race, hey, instead of raining on the tire, everyone has to put hards on the rear. Let's see some drifting out there, whatever. But it's just way too many steps too far to achieve to be able to achieve a balance on a car.
There you go, Fabio. All right, turn the page. All right, next question is from Miles. I was interested for your take on corners. Does Paul have any corners or series of corners that are his favorite to race on? A. B, what makes a good corner? And C, why do the newer tracks, many of the Toka's design, not seem to be a lot of fun?
Well, we could be here all day, couldn't we?
Yes, we could.
On that last question.
So first one, Paul, what is there a corner or a series of corners that's your favorite to race on?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take just a couple of my favorite tracks in the US. So let's take Sonoma. I'm going to be there next week, so I've got that in my mind. There's a number of turns at Sonoma that are challenging, but not in a negative manner. Sometimes there's corners that are just difficult and they're awkward. It's like, it's a really tight and then a tight this, and you can't get the most out of the turn because of the compromise you make. But going through the S's at Sonoma, then going down the hill through that super fast turn 9, and then somehow at a lot over 100 miles an hour, somehow the car's sliding. You somehow got to balance the car and then change the direction of the car without slowing down too much, right? And without having the car pitch. There's sometimes these moments where you're like, okay, when I'm just about to change direction, this is when it can all go really, really bad.
Yeah.
Right? So generally drivers like fast corners because we like going fast, and we like challenging corners. We don't like decreasing radius turns. Very bad.
Like China.
A friend of mine, Chris Monroe, said, if I designed a track, they would all be increasing radius turns because you brake, you turn, and then you accelerate early and get out of it. And it makes you feel like a hero getting out of there. But the ones that are challenging for speed, technically difficult, visually scary sometimes. They're the ones I like. I love turn one at Sonoma also, because then it blends into another turn that is very difficult, and there's little nuances that if you don't know where you put the vehicle exactly, it's going to throw you off the road. And just learning those kind of corners. But I'd say the S's into 9 and 10, just phenomenal series of turns there. I love Road America is my favorite track in the US, and because it's fast, flowing, and challenging. There's not flat out corners, and the ones where you actually have to do something as a driver, and you can make the difference between what other drivers are doing, like the kink, Am I going to lift, or am I going to brake? Am I going to change down gear? The ones that when you come out, you can just feel the inertia, the momentum coming out, and it just gives you that sense that you've really fulfilled it. So Sonoma's not a track that you particularly want to race on because it's a very difficult track to pass on road, but the corners are super challenging. So as a single corners, I say Sonoma has a few, and Road America is just a great track because it is wide, it is fast, where you can race people and pass people and outbrake people, etc.
Are you a fan of the corkscrew?
The corkscrew, it's fun for a while, but it's a weird term, but it's kind of basic in a way, because basically everything's done at the beginning. You brake in a straight line, and as soon as you turn the wheel, you just head down the hill. So it's great. The pictures are great. When you look, it's challenging initially, but it's not like a corner I would be like, oh, that's like in my top 10 of corners. I think visually it's a lot for a lot of other people to watch cars go through there, but not necessarily to drive.
What about COTA? Is there a particular corner you liked at COTA?
I like, the S's are great, but, just because it's a Tilke track and there's so much runoff here and there, not as great, but I would say more the 6, 7, 8, 9 section there. We're not dealing with just painted lines to keep us off. And it's really, you've really got to think of all the next 3 corners before you get to 9, and then up and over once again, another corner where if you get it right, it's really right. If you get it wrong, it goes very, very wrong. So I think that's my favorite series of corners there.
It's a good place to watch an F1 race too.
It is.
Yeah.
And that, when I went with Grace and, we were sitting there, you could really see drivers' different approaches. Sometimes you see a flat out corner, you say, or nearly flat out, everyone kind of looks the same. But in that series of turns, you'll really see the different driving styles and the different car engineering, and how the teams are making those cars work here, not work there, and how they're trying to balance the car there. So I think, it's a great place to watch from.
Yeah. And I think a reason that a lot of the newer tracks, the Tilke tracks designed, was because a lot of those were designed with those sort of 45-degree angle corners because of the cars. They were trying to get the corner to prompt a behavior and braking behavior out of the car that would promote passing.
Right, because of the aero wash that they couldn't do during, like Sonoma. The Formula One race would just be like Monaco. You just follow each other because the air wash is too great, right? So they were trying to get them slow, find a way of getting around the design of the cars to make a race of it.
Yeah. All right. Next question for Paul. I have a question, Paul.
Another one.
A good friend of mine and I have been really enjoying watching Heart of Racing and IMSA and wanted to know where we can buy some merchandise of the team. We looked online and couldn't find anything. Thanks for all you 3 do, and always look forward to my F1 early week fix. Well, thanks, John. Yeah, where can I get some swag?
I wish I knew. It's in the works. I honestly, ever since we started the thing, I've been trying to get that program going. There's a lot of reasons I don't understand why it hasn't, but I know I've been pushing for it, and I know it's coming, and I will we will let everyone know.
Yes,
and it does. It is a crying shame, because we do have a lot of supporters, and the charity we run for is, fantastic, and we need to get the word out there. We need people wearing the swag. We need generate money from selling the swag to give to the children's charities, etc. So it's something, it's been really busy for us, starting a new team, then taking on 2 cars, and there's been a lot of stuff going on that hasn't been, we're a small team also, remember. Right. It's not like we're McLaren and we've got our own, commercial department. We don't, but we're trying, and I will alert everyone as soon as we do. But thanks everybody for watching, supporting us. It's a great cause. It's a great team. So, and I appreciate everyone that comes up to me during the races and says hi. I really like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so as soon as there is a link, folks, I'll share it at the Parc Fermé, of course. Because I, like you, John, I'm wanting to get my $100 carbon fiber Ian James signed carbon key fob.
There you go. If you say you're going to pay $100 for it, I guarantee you Ian will go out and make one for you.
Would he? All right. I'd like to get, those Franklin Mint plates, depicting, I want to get the Ian James Franklin Mint plate set, just like the profile of Ian, and, have my whole Ian James collection up there. It'd be great.
Yeah, it would be great.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah. Let's see. Next question is Mike. Greetings, gents. Okay. Your TPF servant friend has a question. Let's talk Miami. Often there's a lamenting of street courses in F1 and less than optimal for our sport. Yet historically, most Herald Classic courses were all road courses at one point, or airports, Singapore, Monaco, all provide awesome racing for us, yet not paved, billiard, smooth Herman T tracks. They're organic street venues that provide the unexpected, non-laboratory engineered grip and angles. Have we become too much of the proverbial F1 jazz nut jobs, or who can never be happy? So there you go, Paul. I'll let you answer first.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've driven on a few street circuits. I actually really enjoy the challenge of them, because there's
Miami.
I love the old Miami circuit, the one
Long
downtown,
Beach?
Long Beach. I drove West Palm Beach. It's a challenge, visually it's a challenge. There's not a lot of give out of those walls. So it does change what drivers do well, because the ones that are a little more flamboyant and kick up a lot of dust tend not to finish those kind of races. So it is a different discipline. So I'm a fan of watching it. I think it's great to bring the races to people too. Unfortunately, some of these street circuits have not been well planned out, and they've been a bit of a mess, right? Like Grace's Baltimore track, where they're having to jump over a railroad track. So need to be measured on where and how we design these tracks. Don't put it there just because it's convenient. It has to work too, right?
Yeah, agreed.
The Miami track, I think the thing about the Miami track is not necessarily the layout. I think it's where it is and what it is, right? I mean, I said the old Miami street circuit, going to Miami is you go down to Miami, there's boats in the harbor. It could be the Monaco of America, but putting it in to run around a stadium, I think, is a bit
in a
characterless for what that area could give us, right? So I think that's more what the complaints are really about, what the potentially could have been. But unfortunately, because of legislation and all the logistics and all that, we actually have to put it out in a parking lot of a stadium, which I don't think is the best place for you to see the best of a Formula One car, quite honestly.
Yeah, I agree. Well, there you go. That's what we think of the mailbag, and that's what we think of the Turkish Grand Prix. But be sure to stop by the website, theparcfermé.com. Share your opinion. Just do it with decorum and civility, as always. No personal attacks. And A huge thank you to our Patreon supporters, because we would not do this podcast and could not do it without your support. If you're not a Patreon supporter, you can be by going to theparcfermé.com. On the right-hand side, it says support us. You can click there on how you'd like to support us, and we'd be very grateful if you would. And also, you can go over to iTunes, give us a good review over there, give us a little love over there. We always appreciate that as well. And gosh, Austin is next, Paul.
It is.
Yeah, believe it or not, Austin
can't
is
even
next.
Get there.
Nope,
Sold out,
can't
man.
get there. Yep, $600 tickets.
Yeah, $600 for one day. That's a bit steep for me.
No.
Yeah, it's. Yeah. I think it's a crying shame that that's how it's gone.
Yep.
Obviously, people are trying to make money when they were losing money, and I get it. But it really eliminates a lot of people from getting the chance to go see it. But if it's sold out, I guess that's what they're doing. But
I was remembering the halcyon days of the $99 weekend, and I'm like, what?
Hey, what happened?
What happened?
Yeah, there was like 5 million greeters there, and everyone they're basically carrying you to your chair, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, give me that $600 and get in there and enjoy it.
Get in there, grab a damn turkey leg and shut up. Cheer for Lewis. Damn it.
So it's a shame. So I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. I got rooms. I got rooms fairly close to the track, but not a ticket to be had.
Crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll be back to review that. In the meantime, I'll find Grace next week. But until that time, this is Todd, a.k.a. Negative Camber, saying so long.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over. I don't feel I've got to prove at all. I don't really want to prove anything. I started as an amateur with no idea or no intention of becoming world champion. I was curious to find out what it was like to drive a car fast, to drive on a certain circuit, to drive a certain type of car.
Looking for a fun way to win 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projection for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/play100 and use code play100. That's code play100 at prizepicks.com/play100 for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Life insurance. What's your excuse for putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think your work coverage is enough? There's a lot of excuses for putting off life insurance, but one big reason why you shouldn't. If the unexpected were to happen to you, who would pay the mortgage, the kids' tuition, and all the other bills? In a time of grief, the last thing you would want is for your family to have to sell the house and struggle to survive financially. At Ethos, we could get you covered in just 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Rates can increase the longer you wait, so no more excuses. Take 10 minutes today and discover the modern way to get the life insurance coverage you need. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethoslife.com/audio. That's ethoslife.com/audio.